Greetings, everyone, and welcome to our sixth installment in the Claudia Miller Ignite series on animal welfare, a series of webinars designed to inform you about the critical animal issues we're working hard to resolve and how you can help. Today's event is Kangaroos Are Not Shoes, Completing the Mission. I'll introduce our guests in a moment, but here are a couple of things to keep in mind as the event progresses. First, a couple of us in the Northern Hemisphere are battling seasonal allergies. Do not try to adjust your sets, as they used to say. It's just us fighting down some sniffles, creaky voices, and red eyes. Second, please enter your questions in the QA section at the bottom of your screen. Our producer, Ryan, will answer procedural ones as we go along, such as where you can find more information, what websites we refer to, and more. When we get to the 45-minute mark, I'll pose the more substantive questions to our guests, and we'll answer as many as we can. Third, please remember that we'll send out a link to the recorded version as soon as it's available. We do that so you can re-listen to any parts that go by too quickly, and so that you can share the event with any of your like-minded friends. Fourth, I'd be remiss if I didn't note that we are a nonprofit wholly dependent on the donations of people like you, folks who love animals and want to see the creation and enforcement of laws, regulations, and business policies that improve the lives of animals. We have rapidly come to the critical part of our fundraising year, and if you're inclined to make us part of your charitable mix, well, I speak for all of us when I say thank you, thank you, thank you. You may find out more information about donating to Animal Wellness Action at animalwellnessaction.org. Now to the program. Our focus is on the fight to persuade global sportswear manufacturers to stop paying for the slaughter of kangaroos in order to make soccer cleats. The campaign is called, appropriately enough, Kangaroos Are Not Shoes, and we've had some success. So far, Nike, Puma, New Balance, and Diadora have responded to our advocacy and have pledged to stop using kangaroo skins for their products. But one manufacturer remains, and that is Adidas, and that is where we now focus. Here to talk about the status of the campaign and what kangaroos mean to Australia are Wayne Pacelli, the founder and president of Animal Wellness Action and the Center for a Humane Economy. He is the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books on animal welfare and has led efforts to pass 1,500 state laws for animals, more than 100 federal laws and amendments, 30 ballot initiatives, and 500 corporate agreements. Jennifer Skiff is with us as well. She is our Director of International. Jennifer crisscrossed the globe as an investigative reporter for CNN for more than a decade, receiving several honors, including the prized Environmental Media Award. As a best-selling author, Jennifer's inspirational books about animals have been published in 7 languages. Jennifer has more than 25 years of experience working with animals. From Australia, we have Louise Ward, who has worked tirelessly with Animal Wellness Action to highlight the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign in her homeland. Louise has been the state director of the Animal Justice Party for the last 7 years. In her role as state director, Louise has increased the membership tenfold, developed a network of regional and local groups across the state, and run multiple campaigns in the support of the Animal Justice Party elected members. Also from Australia is Amy Weir, Chief of Staff to Georgie Purcell, a member of Parliament representing the Animal Justice Party. Her background in animal rights spans more than 10 years, and she has been working on the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign since Ms. Purcell's election in December 2022. That's hard to say, 2022. Sorry for that. She hails from Victoria, where much of the commercial shooting occurs. So welcome, everyone. Wayne, let's start with you while you still have your voice. Tell us about the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign and why Animal Wellness Action is involved in it.
Well, Joseph, you rightly noted that a couple of us are dealing with a little bit of a seasonal bug or virus. And I remember I had a great colleague in the animal movement. She's passed some years ago, but she was a Broadway actress by the name of Gretchen Weiler. My dad used to actually see her when he was serving in the Army. He saw her perform, and Gretchen told me one time she broke a leg early in her dance routine and she finished the show. So we're not going to let a little bit of the seasonal virus or bug stop us. Joseph, you gave a great introduction about the Center for Humane Economy's Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign. And we really began this campaign a little more than 3 years ago. And the trigger, frankly, was a general knowledge about what was going on, but it was also the cataclysmic fires that engulfed so much of Australia. And when I heard about those fires, when I saw the images of burned kangaroos, koalas, and so many other unique species who live in Australia, I thought, my God, these animals are facing this kind of climatic threat. This is going to be an ongoing problem for them. Plus, this massive commercial exploitation for shoes and other kangaroo parts globally traded. And I thought, well, this is something we can control. We may not be able to control the fires, but we sure as heck can control mass shooting of these animals during the night. And my former colleague, Mitchell Fox, who headed this campaign before Jennifer Skiff and others took it over, he really did a lot of great research. And we connected with Louise, and we connected with Amy, and we connected with so many Australian animal advocates. And what we learned was that this was the largest commercial slaughter of wildlife in the world. I had worked on the Canadian seal hunt for years, the mass killing of baby harp seals and hooded seals for their fur, also for export. At its zenith, it was 300,000 baby seals. This is 2 million kangaroos. And the collateral damage is that the mothers are shot, lactating females are shot, as well as adult males. But when the lactating females are shot, that dooms the young, known as joeys. It may be 300,000 to 500,000 joeys who are collateral damage in this enterprise of killing. So just that collateral damage is bigger than the seal hunt at its top point in terms of the kill. So I knew this was something we had to take on. You know, we deal at the Center for Humane Economy and Animal Wellness Action with the biggest problems for animals: factory farming, animal testing, the fur trade, so many other problems. Among wildlife interests and issues, this commercial kill was the biggest. And it was connected to many household names for us all. Adidas or Adidas. Those of you in Australia say Adidas, we say Adidas for the most part in the US, Nike, Puma, New Balance, etc. Joseph, you enumerated so many companies involved in this. And we said, you know, we've got to do something about this, that these companies have statements about sustainability and about humane treatment. Yet how can they countenance this idea that this number of animals is killed for athletic shoes, specifically for soccer cleats and the uppers in soccer cleats? We thought, my God, these companies can do so much better. And during our research, we found that they had already been great innovators in terms of human-made fabrics and other fabrics to make their golf shoes and their tennis shoes and their running shoes and other categories of their athletic shoes where they didn't use any kangaroo skins at all. And we've seen, even in this realm of the soccer shoes, they have many models that are not made from animal parts and certainly not from kangaroo shoes. One of the things we did along the way, Joseph, is that we added up the goal scorers. We added up the folks at the European Championships, the major teams, the United Kingdom and Italy and others. And we found that more than 90% of the goal scorers in 2021 were wearing non-kangaroo based shoes, that the elite players in this industry had already moved away from this practice of using kangaroo based shoes. And then in 2022, in the fall, just about a year ago, we had the World Cup. And we found that 95% of the goal scorers for the world's most elite players in all the world's countries who qualified for the World Cup were using non-kangaroo based shoes. So to me, the definition of cruelty is causing intentional harm and suffering to animals, but doing it when you don't have to. Nobody needs kangaroo shoes for soccer shoes anymore. No kangaroo skins for soccer shoes. This is pointless in this day and age because we have alternative fabrics that get the job done well. If the top players on the UK team or the US team or the Australian team or the Italian team or the Brazilian team can wear these non-kangaroo based shoes, so can everybody else. This is something that we identified as just an unnecessary form of harm to animals. And as we've campaigned using so many tactics and so many different ways to address this problem, we've seen so many of these big companies agree to our demands, and Kangaroos Are Not Shoes. As you mentioned, Joseph, Diadora, the Italy-based company. Then we saw in March of this year, Puma, a Germany-based company. Then just 10 days later, it was Nike, which is arguably one of the biggest brands in the world, one of the most recognizable companies. And then in September, just a little more than a month ago, New Balance, also a US-based company. So among the 5 big global brands, just Adidas continues to source kangaroo skins for shoes without making a definite commitment to end the use of these skins in its supply chain. So we are really excited. I know tonight we're going to be joined by Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick. He is just a fabulous animal advocate, a Republican U.S. House member, a congressman from Pennsylvania who's leading this fight in Congress. We're going to have 10 bills in U.S. states this year to stop the trade in kangaroo parts, seeking to replicate what was done in California years ago. California closed down its entire market for kangaroo parts, and it remains the biggest soccer state in the United States. And this has really, I think, been a big factor in driving these companies toward us and making this change in policy. But there are protests, and there are letter writing campaigns, and there are so many advertising efforts. And we had a great filmmaker, Gavin Pallone, do a 60-second short film that kind of reverses the process of kicking a soccer ball into the back of the net on the soccer field, and then taking that back all the way to the locker room and back into the places where they manufacture soccer shoes, and then out into the outback where kangaroos are killed for their skins. Really connecting the playing of soccer with these killing acts that are very anonymous out in suburban areas or out in the outback of Australia. So Joseph, I'm very excited to be part of this panel tonight to talk about this issue. We've made great gains. It shows that our work has impact, but we've got to complete this campaign. And that's why we need your support. We need your activism. We need to press Adidas to get aligned with its major competitors and stop this killing of animals. And I'm excited to work with Brian Fitzpatrick and with Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky in Congress on this, but also excited to work with Louise Ward and Amy Weir and my colleague Jennifer Skiff and so many others to address this issue.
Thank you, Wayne. I will include the link to the Gavin Pallone video, which is incredibly dramatic, very, very informative, and very emotion inspiring when we send out the video to all of the registrants. And I will refer people right now to the Kangaroos Are Not Shoe campaign pages on animalwellnessaction.org and the Center for a Humane Economy.org. Where they can fill out our form, they can click on the button and communicate directly to leadership at Adidas. So we've made it very easy. We're all about action, and we've made it super easy to communicate with Adidas executives. And I'll include that link when we send out this recorded version as well. Louise, let's turn to you. When I first started working with animalwellnessaction.org, your name came up time and time again with this campaign. It's a great display of unity among disparate organizations on different parts of the globe. So tell us, please, how you got involved with it and what this campaign means to you.
Thanks so much, Joseph and Wayne and everybody at the Center for a Humane Economy and Animal Wellness Action. Look, I first met Mitchell, who Wayne mentioned before. He was the key. He was leading the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign, and he played the most amazing role amongst Australian advocates for kangaroos and organizations bringing people together in Australia and across the world to fight for kangaroos under the auspices of the International Kangaroo Protection Alliance, which we are still working together with. And it's so important because this has been such a tough fight in Australia, and we needed overseas organizations to get involved. Everybody that works in kangaroo advocacy in Australia will tell you that the commercial market for kangaroos will be shut down, not from within Australia, but when the export markets are shut down. So that's why all of you are so critical, and that's why this US campaign is so critical as well. Wayne mentioned the Canadian seal hunt, and just like the Canadian government, the Australian government is not listening about what is happening to kangaroos. It is not listening about the cruelty. It's not listening about the sustainability. And that's why this bill, that federal bill in the US, is so important, and Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign is so important as well. Just wanted to mention as well a little bit about, Amy's going to talk a little bit more about the cruelty. But I just wanted to let people know that kangaroo shooting happens at night in Australia. It happens in the outback of Australia where there is no one watching. And the kind of cruelty that happens when one man is out with a gun in the middle of the night, spotlighting kangaroos and shooting moving kangaroos. We know that 40% of kangaroos do not die from a single shot to the head. The industry and the government will tell you that it is a humane industry and animals are dying instantly. This is not the case. And what we do know about kangaroos, and I love to just tell people a little bit about kangaroos, they are gentle, empathetic animals. They tread lightly on the earth. They have strong, strong family bonds. So female kangaroos form lifelong friendships. The daughters will stay with their mothers for their whole life. These are tight-knit family groups. And so then in the middle of the night, brothers are watching their friends being shot. Uncles are watching their nephews being. It is a tight family group that is just being decimated by this killing. So they're being terrorized every single night. And we know from some new studies that the behavior of kangaroos is changing because they are just living in fear all of the time. So this idea that they're just living freely and then a single shot to the head, this is not the case at all. Kangaroos are suffering immensely because of this industry. And it is an industry. It is a commercial industry that is driven by demand. It is driven by the demand by companies like Adidas, and they are driving the commercial slaughter of kangaroos. There's no doubt about that. And Wayne did mention fires as well. We are heading into a horrific fire season in Australia. But fires have already started. 3 years ago, the Black Summer bushfires that estimated more than 5 million kangaroos died. We called on the government, please, as we can't control these fires, please stop killing kangaroos. We don't know the damage that's being done to them. We don't know how many are being killed. But the government said no. And that is because there was a commercial imperative to keep this industry going. Orders need to be filled. They are driven by an industry. It's nothing to do with sustainability. It's an industry, simple.
Louise,
Great,
thank
I
you.
see.
Yeah, I just noticed Congressman Fitzpatrick has joined us, so we're going to turn to him if you don't mind. Thank you, Louise. That's great. We'll follow up. Wayne, do you want to introduce our special guest?
Yeah, I'd be just delighted to. So happy to have Congressman Brian Fitzpatrick from the 1st Congressional District of Pennsylvania. I have been working in Congress for many years in terms of an advocate for animals, and there are 535 members of Congress now, 100 senators and 435 reps. And I've known a lot of folks over the last 30 years. And there's just never been a better advocate for animals than Brian Fitzpatrick. We are so lucky to have him. He is one of us in terms of his values. He decided he was going to lead the Kangaroo Protection Act to stop the trade in kangaroo parts in the U.S. last Congress, he shepherded to passage the Big Cat Public Safety Act into law to stop the trade in big cats as pets and to stop the breeding of big cats. This year, he's also leading an effort to defeat the EATS Act, to undermine our anti-factory farming laws at the state level. There's really nothing that he's not done at the federal level for animal welfare. He basically never says no when there is an urgent need for animals. So Brian, Congressman Fitzpatrick, just so happy to have you serving. Thank you for your public service. We know how hard it is to serve in Congress with all of the varying views of your constituents and all the rancor that exists in our society. And for you to do this is just great. Brian served in the FBI before he came to Congress, and his brother, who sadly passed away just a couple of years ago, preceded him in the U.S. House and was also a great advocate. So the Fitzpatrick clan has just been an animal-friendly family for the longest time. Brian, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Wayne. I just want to say a couple things. Number one, when I came into Congress, I was a career FBI agent, 14 years. And I had the chance to meet Wayne at the time when I was a candidate. And Wayne is someone who defended me and supported me as a candidate. That's something you never forget, by the way. And I told him, that, amongst many of the issues that I cared about, animal rights was something very important to me for a couple of reasons. Number one, I believe that we all have an obligation to be a voice for the voiceless, to take care of human beings that don't have a voice and also animals that don't have a voice. I think that's just part of being a compassionate human being. I have an affinity for animals because of the unconditional love that they're a critical aspect of our biodiversity system and our climate and our environment and just the circle of life. And I just want to let you all know, there are a lot of advocacy groups out there that advocate for all sorts of issues, some of which I support and some which I don't. But who that representative is very, very important. And I just want you all to know that when I met Wayne, I was already predisposed to be all in on the animal rights movement. When I met Wayne, I said, you know what, this is exactly the kind of person I want to work with, the person I want to be a friend with. And I also want to tell all of you, by virtue of the fact that you are involved in this movement, tells me all I need to know about each and every one of you. Animals don't have a voice. They don't have a vote. They don't have any money to spend. They rely on us to advocate for them. And this kangaroo protection issue is just one of many issues. Wayne and I have worked together on puppy, combating puppy mills, on rhino poaching, on big cat safety acts, on a lot of things. And Wayne brought this issue to my attention. I had no idea that it was even an issue. Wayne brought it to my attention as part of animal wellness action. I quickly learned how horrific this practice was. 1 to 2 million kangaroos a year, including joeys, getting attacked, sometimes intentionally, sometimes inadvertently, being killed. And it is directly because of Wayne and animal wellness action and all of you that 4 out of the big 5 shoe producers are now out of this business. Adidas is the last big one remaining. Wayne, I think Mizuno, if I have that name pronounced right, is another big soccer shoe producer that still has not done the right thing yet. But just look at what you've already accomplished. Like, before we even get anything passed on the legislative front, the mere fact that Wayne and you all are supporting this initiative, the public pressure campaign by itself has gone a long way to fixing this problem. So that should tell you the power of your voice, especially when it's a collective voice, when you're all together, and when you're led by a solid organization like Animal Wellness Action and Wayne, who make really good decisions and also find people like me to partner with and to educate, so that I can advocate for you on the floor of the House of Representatives. That's how this all works. And we've had great results already. We still have a long way to go on a number of fronts, including this one. But you all ought to feel very, very good about that. Our country's in a really tough time. Our world's in a really tough time. There's no question about it. And there's a lot of reasons to be sad when we wake up every day. But there's also reasons to be very optimistic. Because when we have good people that are part of a good movement like this, like we're all a part of, who are willing to be a voice for the voiceless, to take care of animals that are a critical part of our biological biodiversity system, critical to our climate, and critical to our lives, and our well-being, our physical, psychological, and emotional health when it comes to a lot of these animals. That's really what it's all about. So I'm just honored to be able to help you, to be in a position to help you. And I would have never been in this position, I will tell you all, if not for Wayne and his early support for me. And because of that, he and you all have my undying loyalty on any of these issues, because number one, it's the right thing to do. Number two, it's something I care about personally. And number three, I owe that to Wayne and all of you, to make sure that we advance all these initiatives. So with that, Wayne, and all of you, I yield back. Thank you.
Well, listen, Congressman Fitzpatrick, let me just thank you. One of the things I've learned through the years in working with lawmakers, the vast majority of lawmakers don't step out on these issues. Leadership is the single most important attribute in a lawmaker when it comes to being a strong animal advocate. And I mean, Congressman Fitzpatrick is leading on the Puppy Protection Act. He's leading on the Kangaroo Protection Act. He's leading to defeat the EATS Act. I mean, it's incredible. As I said, I've never seen him. How many terms have you served now? Is this your fifth term now?
It's my fourth term right now.
Fourth term. Never not seen him step up for the animal. So, and I want to mention that, and I know Louise and Amy are here from Australia, Brian, and you got a visit, your team got a visit from the ambassador from Australia saying, why are you doing this? We have too many kangaroos, and, you should be not meddling in our business. And I knew that after Brian faced that direct challenge to what he was doing, it wouldn't cause him to waver for one moment. And he never did. And we can see now that these companies getting on board validate what we've been talking about. And how could anyone justify killing 1.5 million of these animals for products that you can make in a different way? There's just no. And
Wayne, I'm sure you brought this up. This is the largest slaughter of a mammal population in human history.
It's unbelievable.
Right? I mean, it really is. And to that point, Wayne, yes, we spoken to the Australian ambassador. We had the American Kennel on a separate issue. The American Kennel Club come in. Obviously, they're not on the right side of any of our issues that we care about. But I still hear them out because I want to hear what their arguments are. And both of them, quite frankly, made very intellectually dishonest arguments. And it's our duty as legislators to hear everybody out. But we know what the right side of these issues are. And you, Wayne, and all of your supporters on this call, you are on the right side of these issues. You don't need me to tell you that. But I just want to thank you as a citizen of this country for being a voice for the voiceless. Is that not the greatest obligation we all have, whether it be for our kids, protecting them from gun violence, or protecting our animals, all the people that don't have a voice? It's our job for those of us that do have a voice. It's our job to protect them. Whether they be human or animals or anyone. And that's why I'm such a big believer in this cause. So Wayne brought this kangaroo issue to my attention, and I'm thankful that he did, because it's a grave injustice going on. And regardless of what the Australian government's position is, and they are certainly an ally of the United States in many regards, but that doesn't mean that we should turn a blind eye to abuses that occur there or anywhere else. So because of the work of all of you, the public pressure campaign is working, but that doesn't mean that we need to stop. We have to keep going on our our push here in the United States to make sure that we push every single lever we have at our disposal to make sure that we are exerting every single ounce of pressure we can to make sure we save this habitat and the species from injustice.
Well, and if there were not determined opponents to this issue and
Yep.
others, we wouldn't have to fight. I mean,
Right.
you mentioned the American Kennel Club and your fight to stop puppy mills, and
Yeah.
Brian also co-sponsored an amendment. It was not ruled in order, unfortunately, to stop the import of sport hunted elephant trophies.
Yep.
These
Yep.
people go to Africa and shoot an elephant just to bring the ivory tusks home to the United States. In all of these cases, there are powerful forces on the other side. And Brian, I know you're busy. I told Brian a couple weeks ago, which was no disrespect to any other Republicans in the House. I said, I hope you're elected Speaker, because we could never have a better Speaker of the U.S. House than Brian. But he continues to have the respect and friendship of people throughout the Republican caucus conference in the House, and he's widely recognized as the leading advocate for animal welfare in the House. And again, Brian, thank you. And we know that you don't have a lot of time. I know you're voting tonight as well in the House. So we really appreciate your joining us tonight.
You bet, Wayne. And thank you all for making your mission a bipartisan mission, because if we're gonna truly protect our animals across the spectrum, we can never make this a partisan issue ever. We need friends and allies in every corner of the House and the Senate and the administration that we can find. That's the most important thing we can do, and that's what Wayne's done. Wayne doesn't have a partisan bone in his body. He reaches out to advocates across party lines, no matter where they are, to join us in this fight. And because of that, it's been very, very successful. So thanks for having me, Wayne. I appreciate it.
Brian, thanks a million for everything. You're the best.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Excellent testimony. And Wayne, I'm so glad you were able to coordinate his appearance on this webinar. Very, very powerful stuff.
Yeah, they're voting tonight. He came off the floor to join us, and I think he really cares about this issue. He cares about all animals, and I'm just glad that we've got someone like him fighting for us. We need every voice we can get. That's why everybody on this call is just so important as well, as he said.
Very good. Thank you. Amy, I'll come back to you in a moment, or come to you in a moment, because coming from Victoria and with your work on this issue, you have some great commentary on what these kangaroos actually endure. Before that, though, I want to go to Jennifer, who has a dual citizenship in Australia and is pulling a lot of levers behind the scenes to make this campaign successful. Jennifer, what are you up to, and what do you see as the road ahead?
Well, as everyone has said tonight, we've got Nike, Puma, Diadora, and New Balance on board, and our goal is now Adidas. And it's been a great 3 years. The International Kangaroo Protection Alliance was formed in Australia, orchestrated by the center, and our team together collectively is leading the way. We're providing scientific facts where the government has not. The team here using members of parliament to share those facts and to work toward reforms and getting the word out to Australians who truly haven't been aware of what's been going on in the dark of the night, to the mobs of kangaroos, and particularly the joeys and their families. We also have animal rights activists who are protesting globally now, something that you don't always see. It's everywhere right now. It's from Germany to New York to Australia, Netherlands, Belgium. They're joining every day. I'm talking to people in London, and they're getting the message out. They're actually entering Adidas stores in Germany, in New York yesterday, and letting buyers know, that the company is not being truthful with its shareholders when it says that its participation in killing kangaroos is humane. It's just not. It's just not. And to kind of expand on that, I've lived in Australia for 30 years. It's been a privilege. And I'd like to say just a couple things. One thing is that, much like Wayne and everyone here, I'm an advocate who's actually created a role, chosen the role in my life to look at the worst atrocities committed on animals, and then relay what I've seen in a way that energizes and causes others to act. That's what we try to do, because there's a fine line here. It's easy to get disabled by what you see. But when you lead with the truth, just what Representative Fitzpatrick was just saying, when you lead with your truth, when you lead with the light, and you do it together, everyone participating where they can, you can create the change. And we're doing that now, all of us, we're doing it together. And I'm really grateful for everyone here who's been here, who's here now, but also who's been here with this campaign from the start, supporting us financially and every other way. So the campaign is roaring.
All right. Very, very good. Not only are we targeting Adidas at the corporate level, I know one of the campaigns we're working on focuses on a reseller, the Don't Be a Dicks campaign. Tell our listeners about that campaign, Jennifer, and where we are with it.
Well, it's my favorite slogan, first of all. And Joseph, you came up with that. So basically, Dick's Sporting Goods is the largest sporting goods store in the United States, and they're selling brands of shoes that are made with K leather. So we are targeting them as well, and just asking them to stop selling the shoes. I mean, these campaigns are extremely strategic. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that people don't know about. And then there's some things that people do know about it. And one of them is, you know, you go to Dick's and you say, we need you to stop selling. We need you to go to Adidas and say, you know, we're getting pushback here. We don't want to be doing this. And so, yes, we have campaigns. Yes, we have protesters who are going to Dick's and protesting outside. And we've had some good feedback. That's all I can say.
All right, very good. The rest, top secret stuff. We'd tell you, but we'd have to send you a virus with the email or something. I don't know. Amy, let's turn to you, please. Now, Americans are notoriously bad at geography, and among all Americans, I am especially bad at geography. It's my worst category in Trivial Pursuit. So help me understand where Victoria is within the continent of Australia, and why is that where the commercial shooting occurs? I guess it's obviously where the kangaroos are, but give us a background for the geography and what you see as a resident of it when it comes to this commercial slaughter.
Sure thing. Thanks, Joseph. Thanks for having me, and also for the amazing work that you're doing over there, which doesn't go unnoticed by us. Look, I'm bad at geography too, but Victoria is a state in the south and southeast of Australia. It's one of the smallest states, but still has one of the largest quotas for kangaroos. But as is the theme across all of Australia, we don't have an abundance of kangaroos. We just have, I guess, enough shooters that the government is happy to increase our quota year on year. As Louise touched on, despite the events we have here in our environment that are catastrophic for kangaroo populations, such as flooding and fire. So those things are not taken into consideration when a commercial kill quota is set for kangaroos. I just want to touch on how, I guess, we got to the point of slaughtering our native emblem to such a degree for an export market. And I guess that is because kangaroo meat is not widely consumed in Australia. It's not popular. People love kangaroo. So it's not a situation of the skins being a byproduct. The skins are the product that drives this killing. And so what happens with the meat now is it's turned into pet food. And the reason that is palatable for people is because the government here in Victoria and Australia-wide has done so well at convincing people that this is a sustainable and ethical choice because kangaroos are not farmed and they're, free roaming. The only reason that I think people think there's an abundance of kangaroos is because we've cleared their environment at such a scale for factory farming and also for development. So I live in the city, so I live near Melbourne, but really country areas are only 20 minutes from me, and we start to see kangaroos now coming into our suburbs and into our cities, including in the CBD, because they have nowhere else to go. So this gives people the idea that there is an abundance of kangaroos and that perhaps it's not so bad if we do kill them. Having said that, though, you touched on it, Jennifer, Australians do not know what is happening to our kangaroos, and they certainly do not know the scale at which it happens. So the killing happens under a code of practice in the middle of the dark in regional areas far from where anybody lives. And we just got the data for Victoria this week for the past quarter. And of the almost 17,000 kangaroos that were killed, there were 14 inspections. So that's 0.87% of kangaroos killed that were inspected by a government official. So it's completely a cowboy industry that has one purpose and one purpose only, and that's to obliterate the kangaroo population. So the Australian government will try and tell, I guess, people in America, because that's the market, that this is highly regulated, but it just isn't. And it also possibly couldn't be because of how geographically dispersed the industry is. I guess I'll touch more on the cruelty aspect based on what we've experienced in Georgie's office. So Georgie represents a regional community. She has the biggest electorate in the whole of Victoria. So that means we have not only one of the largest quotas, but we also have a great group of wildlife rescuers who are going out every night to clean up the mess that shooters leave behind. So joeys can either be still living in their mother's pouch, or they can be big enough that they're living at foot, so next to their mum, but still reliant on their mum. The way that a joey can legally be killed is by bludgeoning or decapitation, and this usually happens against the roo shooter's vehicle, or on the tow bar, or just with blunt force trauma from their gun. But if they're killing their mother and the joey's at foot, that joey's going to hop away, obviously petrified, and then become an orphan, not be able to sustain themselves, and die a sort of a slower death that way. Important to note as well that the joeys are not included in the kill number. So we don't know how many joeys are killed. There's obviously an estimation, but we just have no idea. And as a slow to reproduce species, it's really concerning what that will do to numbers over time. I think that's all I had to say on that aspect of it, but obviously happy to take any questions.
One question for you. You talk about pet food. We have a question queued up from someone with whom I've corresponded through social media that refers to kangaroo in pet food sold online, right? So how prevalent is that to your knowledge? And I'll ask this of both Amy and Louise. You know, how on guard should American consumers or global consumers be that this kangaroo byproduct is being sneaked into other products, and how aware should we be of that?
Do you want to take it, Amy?
I was going to say, usually you see it here in Australia as fresh, but I'm not sure, Louise, if it is sneaking its way into dried food as well.
Look, it is in dry food and it's advertised as being in dry food, and it is being promoted as a very safe and healthy product for pets. The industry has gotten into the Australian Veterinary Association, so you will see vets promoting it, even though we have done studies on some of the meat and it has this high amount of salmonella, E. coli. It's not good for cats. There's several studies that show it builds up toxicity in cats. I see Alyssa's on the call listening. She's from the Victorian Kangaroo Alliance. She's done an incredible amount of work on pet food, and a huge win that Alyssa was able to secure, and Alyssa and her organization are also part of the International Kangaroo Protection Alliance, was getting the RSPCA, which is the kind of, the biggest animal welfare organization in Australia, to stop selling kangaroo meat through their kangaroo pet food through their online stores because of welfare concerns. So yeah, look, it is after skins. I think that once Adidas announces that they are stopping using kangaroo, and we have several other companies, footwear companies, that are going to stop using as well, that pet food will be an area of focus. And I think that kind of underscores why the federal bill is so important as well, because that would stop the importation of pet food into the US market as well.
My questioner. Well, I'm sorry, Wayne. I was just going to note that the questioner refers to one popular online retailer of pet supplies, pet food. I'm hesitant to mention their name until I do my own due diligence on it. But she cites that 30 different kinds of pet food available through this online retailer include kangaroo parts. So it's potentially a pretty meaningful issue already. Wayne?
I do think that the skins piece of this, when you think about these global brands and you think about soccer being the biggest sport in the world, and what about the footprint of Adidas and Puma and Nike? So that is an enormous market. It seems to me that the pet food is a kind of secondary use of the animals once the animals are killed for their skins. So if we topple the skin trade, I think the whole thing tumbles and crumbles. California, I will note, its law as our best state on animal welfare in the United States. That law forbids any kangaroo parts. So you're not allowed to sell any kangaroo pet food in the state of California. And as Louise noted, Representative Fitzpatrick's bill with Representative Chan Schakowsky, that bill would stop any kangaroo parts, meat or skins or anything else in the United States.
All right. And we're all about the action. So I mentioned before that if you visit the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes campaign page on our websites, you can communicate directly through an action alert there with Adidas executives. But you can also, through that same page, find functionality to communicate to your own representatives and senator in DC to support the Kangaroos Are Not Shoes, or excuse me, the Kangaroo Protection Act. It's been called medicine kicking in. So yes, we have many ways to do that. And certainly we also have on that page a petition to let Dick's Sporting Goods know that you are unhappy with their retailing of soccer cleats made from slain kangaroos.
And if you're in New York, you can join Donnie Moss, who is an incredible animal advocate with Their Turn. This is an animal advocacy group that Donnie leads. He has done, as Jennifer Skiff mentioned, protests at flagship stores for Adidas throughout New York, has now done a Dick's protest. We want people on the ground as well. So if you want to be a letter writer to Adidas, if you want to contact your U.S. senators and U.S. rep, great. If you want to be a protester, if you want to, get us in front of other people to talk about this, get us in the media, get yourself in the media, write letters. We really just need to turn up the volume. People have no idea. When people buy these shoes, they have no idea that they're nighttime shoots that the result in the orphaning and death of hundreds of thousands of joeys. Nobody of conscience could ever justify that. And once we pull the curtain back on this, it will all end. I'm quite sure of it.
All right.
But
Jennifer,
I just mentioned there as well,
ahead,
I was going
Louise.
to mention the
No, go ahead.
global day of protest that we're planning. So on the 2nd of December, we're going to have protests all around the world. So we've got 4 cities in Australia, New York, Frankfurt, Italy, Spain. Outside of the US, Europe is the biggest importer of kangaroo products. So it's incredibly important for us to have a huge presence in these protests in Europe and in the US. We're also, because we understand that not everybody's going to be able to make it to a store, we're going to have an online protest for that day as well. So you guys that are on the list for receive emails from CHE will get some instructions about how you can add to the pressure to Adidas on that Saturday the 2nd. So yeah, I agree with Wayne. They absolutely hate it that we are outside the front of their stores. We're inside the stores. In Australia, in Sydney, we've done them at Nike and Adidas, and we do outreach, and Australians don't know what's happening to kangaroos. I mean, Americans don't know, but Australians don't know. It is such a hidden industry. So it's so important for us to be out on the streets and to have conversations with people and tell our family and friends what's happening.
It's so important, Louise, that we have you and Amy and Member of Parliament Georgie Purcell and Member of Parliament Emma Hurst and Peter Hyland and so many advocates. Animals Australia puts out the most remarkable materials on this. The Animal Justice Party. You know, it'd be a lot easier for the Australians to come, the government, to criticize us for pushing this campaign if we didn't have you in Australia just, you know, calling BS on the government. And the government doesn't represent the people of Australia. It's clear to me after working on this issue. They are just in cahoots with this commercial killing industry, and they're doing something terrible, just absolutely terrible. And, you know, Adidas told us when we spoke to an official there recently, oh, we trust the government's properly regulating this. Well, we know that's not true. We know that the kills aren't being monitored. We know that the animals are being orphaned, and that it's an inevitable consequence of their shooting. They could regulate it all the time. They're still not going to stop the shooting of lactating females when they're shooting them in the middle of the night from 100 meters. You just can't tell the difference between the males and the females who are not without or without joeys and those with joeys.
Jennifer, let me turn to you for your final thoughts, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So everybody's talking about helping us with this campaign and being a part of it. And so what I'd like to ask is that when reaching out to Adidas, please know that they are saying that the harvest of kangaroos is humane. They're telling their people that, they're telling all of us that. I have seen a mother dying with its joey looking up at her from its pouch. I have seen babies bashed against utes or trucks. I have seen them alive and dying slowly after being pulled out of a pouch and thrown into a tree. And I've seen those on foot who survived the shooting by running away with the mob, but they're dying from starvation and dehydration days later. This is not humane. There is no way to make it humane. So please let Adidas know that.
Last word to you, Wayne.
I just want to thank everyone for participating. You know, this kind of change that we're trying to create by addressing large-scale institutionalized cruelty, parts used in global commerce, is not easy. This is a multi-continent effort. This is using legislation and litigation and investigations and communications and coalition building. This doesn't just happen. You know, we're here because we pulled together amazing people within our organization and in other aligned organizations. And I know so many animal advocates say, why don't these groups work together? Well, we are working together. We're working together with the Animal Justice Party and Animals Australia and groups in Europe and Their Turn in New York and so many others. And we just want to thank all of you for being part of it. You're not just turning it over to us to try to solve this. You're joining with us to solve it. And I'm convinced that logic and reason matter. And I'm convinced that we're going to win, because this is not a form of cruelty that can stand the spotlight. The combination of moral purpose and innovation in terms of being able to make shoes with other fabrics is with us right now. So there's just no reason to have this persist. But the people who do this are profiting. And that makes it a conflict, and it requires force. It requires us to be determined. And that's what we're trying to do. So Joseph, thank you for organizing us tonight. And thank you to Amy and Victoria and also Louise and Sydney, right? Sydney, yes. And Jennifer, thank you for hopscotching between the United States and Australia. And we'll be continuing the fight on this issue and on so many other issues to achieve animal protection.
All right. Thank you, Wayne. Well said. I can't top it. So we'll close with that. Bid everyone a good night. Look for the email containing a link to the recorded version, as well as the links to take action. Thank you all and good night.